Okay. And we'll go ahead and you guys can go ahead and start with the 10 minutes of the tracking that you normally do. So we'll do that like normal. If someone hops on, I'll just remind them to. But you can turn off your videos and your mics and we'll come back at like 14 after and get going. Let's go ahead and do all the stuff that you normally do.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Hey, Andrea, this is Renee. We are just doing the tracker right now. We have about 8 more minutes or 6 more minutes left. So you can just go ahead and do that like normal and then we'll pop on.
Perfect. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Hey, everybody, go ahead and take a minute or two to finish up, and then we'll come back. All right. Go ahead and do your final touches and then pop on back and we'll get started. Hello. And then Maria, are you going to be on? I can wait. I know you have your little girl there with you for a little bit. Are you there and just on? Okay, you're there. You're good. I'm like, I can start with you off video. That's fine if you need to handle something. No worries. Okay. Hi guys. I don't know if all of you were here last week, but I'm Renee Weaver and I'm a life coach. And I met Megan through 200K, and she asked me to come today because she's in Greece, and I'm so happy to be here. If you were here last week, I introduced myself a little bit, but I'll just do it again. So I've been a coach for 2 years now, and I used to be a school psychologist. So I worked in the public schools as a school psychologist for 10 years. I was always interested in psychology, the brain, all of that stuff. The only problem was I did not feel fulfilled at all in my role and what they allowed us to do in the schools as a school psychologist. It was a lot of just testing kids to see if they qualified for special education. And I'm like, this doesn't feel good. I don't feel like I'm living like my purpose. I don't feel like I'm like fulfilled in doing what I want to do. So that feeling was always there. I always felt it. I felt it very strongly the whole 10 years, but I did nothing about it for 10 years. And there's a reason why. And that's what we're going to kind of talk about today. I'm going to do kind of like a little teaching, just a little sharing before we jump into just open coaching on whatever you want coaching on. So let me open this chat up. Oh yeah. So it's needed. I loved working with the kids as a school psychologist. It just didn't light me up. It didn't set my soul on fire. And I finally decided that I deserved that. And I finally made that switch. But so basically what I coach people on is how to ditch the external rules, ditch all that social conditioning so you can reconnect with your truest self and live a life that feels good and true and free right down to your freaking bones. Because it's so easy to get caught up on, well, this is what the responsible thing is. And again, a lot of us, our stories are kind of what we end up helping people with, right? And for me, I was just caught up in that story of, well, I've gone to grad school for this. I went into student loan debt for this. I have a pension. I have 14 weeks off a year. There's all these reasons I would be crazy to leave this. Why would I do that? And so even though my insides were screaming to me, I was like, well, rationally, that just doesn't make sense and I can't do that. So I want to start with a little bit about how can we learn how to ditch those external rules and really dive into hearing our inner wisdom, because we all have it within us. We have body intelligence. It's just something that isn't talked about or taught to us. And so we're actively taught actually not to listen to it. So we don't get to use that as part of the picture, not as everything. Our brains are amazing, but as a really rich part to help us live a life that feels really congruent and aligned, build a business that feels really congruent and aligned. So I love that this is a group of like business owners and CEOs, people that are building businesses, because I think this issue comes up a lot when you're building a business. It can, because especially if you haven't built a business before, if that's not something you've done and this is newer for you, or if it's a different type of business than you've built before, it can be easy to start to do it. And then when it starts to feel difficult or overwhelming, to kind of look to, well, what are they doing? What are they doing? And then take it in. Even when it feels like nails on a chalkboard to you. It's like, well, they're successful. Look at their Instagram. I guess I should just do it because I want to get this thing off the ground too. But inside you start to die. And that's not why any of us got into this business. So I love that that's what I'm talking to today. As Megan teaches, she told me about the thing she teaches you of adopt, adapt, or abandon. And I love that because while business strategy coaching, what Megan offers, it's valuable. It's very valuable. But people can actually start to use it against themselves if they're not really adept at using the adapt, adopt, abandon principle, right? And to do that, you have to really be able to trust yourself, like know how to hear your inner wisdom, your wisest self, whatever you want to call it, and then trust it and make decisions based on that. It's like a filter for the strategies you're getting, right? Otherwise, if you're using strategies and you're not running it by what works for me, what feels good to me, and I can trust that, then all of a sudden your business starts to feel not fun, not like what you signed up for. And that feels bad. And you feel bad and your business feels incongruent and it's no fun at all. So I'm going to share a couple slides with you from a masterclass I did. So let me do that real quickly. And we'll just go over a little bit about this body intelligence. And I'm going to teach you a tool. It's called the Body Compass tool. It's from Martha Beck. So if you are familiar with her, maybe you've learned this, but we'll go through it again. And it really helps you dive into your innate wisdom first, so you can get clear on that. And then you can use strategy to, once you are clear on what you want, what works for you. So let me share. Okay, can you see me and my PowerPoint? Okay. And I know it's not full screen, but I have some notes over here I need to read. So, okay, so if you've read Blink, you would have read that by Malcolm Gladwell, you would have seen this experiment before. But basically, you can trust your intuition. There's lots of research, lots of cognitive science research that looks at this. And the times basically that they say it's important to stop and really go into your brain, your cognitive brain, is if it's a new age situation, like if you're looking into how you want to invest your portfolio and your money and all of that, and it has lots of different pieces with new things that we weren't evolved to do, like look at the money and figure all that out. Yes, don't just trust your gut of I think this is the best investment. Let me just do it. That wouldn't be a good use of it. And the other one is still shots of people. So if you see a picture of someone and you have a gut feeling about that, not a good time to trust it, because we're not meant, our gut, our intuition, our body intelligence isn't meant to see just this freeze frame. So you want to see them in action. So, but if you see someone in action or a video or moving, then you can trust your gut if you get a gut feeling of if you should trust that person or not. Those are kind of the main two things. Like I said, the brain is so helpful, but our body knows more about what's going on and what we want and the truth of what's going on before our brain does. And here's one of the many experiments that illustrates that. So this experiment that they did, they basically had gamblers come in and they gave them two different decks. And they were told, well, they weren't told this. So they were just said, pick from the red deck or the blue deck, and you want to get the highest payoff. You want to win, getting the highest payoff. You can pick from either deck whenever you want. So they didn't know this, but the blue deck had slow payoffs and less costs. And the red deck had high payoffs. So you pull a card, it's like, oh yeah, it's got a lot, but there are also high costs in that deck. They didn't know that. So at 80 cards, once they pulled from the decks, deciding which one they're going to go through for 80 cards, they finally said out loud, oh, the blue deck is definitely the one that I'm going to pull from. They said that out loud because it's going to give me better outcomes. At 50 cards, they verbally said, something seems a little bit off about that red deck, but they still weren't sure. It took till 80. But after just 10 cards, after pulling just 10 cards from each side, their palms were starting to sweat. Their blinking rate was going up when they were going for the red deck. Their heart rate would accelerate. All these signs of stress that their body was giving them when they're going for the red deck, which was worse, right, for the outcome, after just 10 cards, right? But it took them into 70 more cards to cognitively catch on, definitely I'm going to stick to the blue deck. Their body was aware before they were. You can probably think right now of a relationship you were in at some point in your life, and some kind of bad relationship. It didn't work out well. It wasn't great, right? Think now to like the first moment you had some tiny little inkling within you that it wasn't good. And I see Maria laughing. I won't do this for time's sake, but I asked in the masterclass and other times, and people were like, on the first date, on the third date. For me, it was like before the first date because I just knew who the person was, right? Like our body is sending us signals, right? So let me see if I want to go to this one. Yeah. So this is the thing. In Western society, we're like, it's cognitive brain. It's all about our IQ and that. And we don't take into account all the other wealth of information that's available to us. It's not our fault. If you think about when you're a kid, this a lot of times this is where it starts, is unintentionally, parents or caregivers will say things like, you got to finish your plate before you can leave the table. And your body might be telling you, but I'm not hungry. But they're like, well, you got to finish your plate. And you're actively learning, don't listen to that. Shut that down and just eat it. Or you got to put your jacket on before we go outside. And you don't get that opportunity to see, oh, my body's feeling cold. I feel like I want a jacket, right? Now, if it's like negative 10 degrees, clearly you have to take care of the child. But a lot of times it's like, they'll be okay. They're not going to get frostbite, but people are telling them, put the jacket on, and you don't get the opportunity to feel your body, know what that sensation feels like, and trust it. So it makes sense because this is just something we're conditioned to do. Even as adults, it's like people are always asking, are you sure you really want to do that? You're going to start a business? Are you sure? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Right. And it's like, well, wait a second. Now I have to start questioning myself. And then you start to lose touch with that feeling that felt so strong before. And then you start to be like, well, I don't know. Now I don't know, even though you do know. Let me go over here. So did you know that your heart has 10,000 neurons and it sends more signals to the brain than the brain does to the heart? And your gut has millions of neurons in it. It's a direct highway to the brain through the vagus nerve. So your body has intelligence, a lot of it. And your verbal cognitive mind can process about 40 bits of information per second. So what we're aware of, which is about 5%, right? But then 95% of our actions, thoughts, behaviors, emotions go beyond our conscious awareness. And in that unconscious awareness, our body and nervous system, it can process about 11 million bits of information per second. Like it's almost hard to even conceive, but we're not consciously aware of it, but it's going into our being and it's going into us and we're taking it all in. We're just not cognitively aware of it. So the verbal cognitive mind is not everything, but that is what is emphasized in Western culture. So this is why it's so important to go back to, because of how much our body is taking in subconsciously and what a wealth of information there is there for us. It's why it's so important to go back to learning how to access it so you can use that in congruence with your mind to make decisions that feel really aligned for you, for your business, for your life. So I'm going to teach you this tool called the Body Compass tool. So you can have it in your back pocket. You can use it for everyday life, anything, and you can use it for bigger decisions like in your business, in your relationships. I just do want to point out, before you use this tool, first you have to be regulated, right? So like if you're going into a surgery and your surgeon is like activated and stressed, you don't want them doing brain surgery on you. Same with this. If you're like stressed and you're trying to think of I have to make this decision about my business. Do I want to go this way or that way? I got to figure it out and you're feeling really stressed. That wouldn't be a good time to use this tool because you're in a state of activation and you're not regulated. It'd be harder to tap into those feelings in your body. So first, just do anything to bring yourself down. I'll teach you one thing right now. It's called bilateral stimulation. So pick up actually for a second, think of something that feels stressful to you. Out of 10 would be like most stressful. It can be like a 7, it can be a 6. Try and think of something right now in your life that just feels a little bit stressful when you think about it. And try and get that feeling in your body. See if you can right now. See if you can conjure it up. See if you can even take it up one notch and make it even like 1 degree more stressful in your body. And now I want you to grab like a pen or a phone or just any object that you can pass back and forth in your hands. And so what I want you to do is, as you're feeling that stress, take the object and we're just going to pass it back and forth in our hands. And we're crossing the midline and we're giving it to each hand, as we cross it back and forth. And what this is doing is it's activating your right brain and your left brain and your right brain and your left brain. And as you do this, the anxiety is kind of all bundled up into one hemisphere of the brain. There's a really strong neural network that holds it. And when you activate your right brain and your left brain back and forth, it breaks that up. It sends blood and oxygen all over to both sides of the hemisphere. It's lighting up both sides of the hemisphere. So that anxiety you were feeling that was in one little cluster, it can't keep its shit together. So I know you were just making that, kind of conjuring that feeling, but notice now when you go in, notice if it's dropped at all by a couple. And what you can find is this tool, like literally just picking it up and passing it back and forth and breathing for like, do it for like a minute, and you'll notice it brings you down. Even big, I've coached people on dealing with big things that felt like a 10 to them, and this brings them down every time. So if you're feeling activated about a decision, first bring yourself down. It can be any sort of movement, go for a walk, do whatever, but be in regulation before you do this activity, before you go into the body compass tool. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to go ahead and we're going to close eyes for this. I'm just going to walk you through it. It's all kind of in your head. So go ahead and close your eyes and just go to a time where you knew something was wrong for you. It could be a bad relationship you're in. It could be a job that was not right, a place where you live. Just go to a time in your life where everything in you was screaming, this is not right. It's wrong. And what I want you to do is take a big, deep breath and let it out. Take another big, deep breath in and let those feelings just sink into you. That time where it just was so wrong. And don't worry, we're going to change it. We're going to get out of this, but let it sink into you. And we're just going to do a sweep of your body as your body is feeling that time, that relationship, that job, that just everything was just wrong. Okay. So as you're feeling that and letting those feelings come into your body, remembering that time, let's just start with your feet. So notice your feet. You can wiggle your toes, move your ankles, just feel what it feels like in your feet as you're remembering that time that you knew was so wrong for you. Just noticing the sensations, moving up to your calves and your knees, holding in mind the detail of that time that you knew was wrong, and feeling the sensations in your legs, what that felt like. And then moving up to your hips and thighs, just noticing the sensations there. As remembering the way the air smelled, the sounds, the temperature, the textures of that time you just knew was so wrong. Noticing the sensations in your pelvic bowl, deep in your gut. What did it feel like? You don't have to change it or judge it. Again, we're just letting it come. We want to know what that feels like. And going up into your chest, your solar plexus area, breathing into that feeling, noticing what's there. Up into your throat, your heart and lungs, letting that feeling, noticing what's in your arms of that time that was just so wrong for you. Back up the throat into the base of the neck, the skull, letting it just wash over your face. Notice all the sensations in your body. Let them be big. Okay. Big, deep breath in. Feel it big. Let it out. What you're feeling right now is how your body signals to you, hell no. Like, no, this is wrong. It's been trained to signal to you in this way. So take a moment and write down just what are the physical sensations that I'm feeling. Some people might they might say, oh, my chest feels really constricted, or I feel like tingling in my fingers, or my feet are cold, or my pelvis is like a bowling ball. Whatever it is for you, write down the actual physical sensations that you felt when you did that body scan, remembering that time that was not right for you. Just little bullet points of the physical sensations. And then give it a strange little word or phrase. So like truckload of gravel, or mine was invisible constriction falling inward. If you're going to name it something weird and rant, like just a little phrase that to you, like, oh yeah, that's what this feels like, just give it a name. And we're going to bring in a metric. So this is your -10. If we're like a happy meter of -10 to +10, this feeling right now, whatever it is for you, electric hell, whatever, that's your -10. When you're feeling those sensations in your body that you just wrote down, that is your body telling you something's wrong. This is not right. This is like a no, hell no. Okay, go in a different direction. That's what it's telling you. So you can trust these feelings in the future, that when you feel these feelings, you can trust that it is your body telling you something's not going right. Something's moving in the wrong direction. Stop a minute and listen to me. You can trust these feelings. They've told this to you before in your life, and they'll be the same ones that come up later in your life to help you out. All right, now just shake your arms, shake your body, move your head, move around a little bit, and check out that. Now we're gonna go find a +10. So think of a time in your life, it could be a moment, a day, whatever, that was just freaking magical and everything felt so aligned and good and just great. Like it just felt right. Everything felt right, just joy. And we're gonna again drop into that experience. You can close your eyes. We're gonna do a body scan. And as you're holding in your mind that time or that moment that just felt so damn right, we're gonna start down on the feet. And we're just gonna notice any sensations there. You can wiggle your toes, moving up to your legs, your calves and your thighs, just noticing what's there. You're not trying to make anything be there, just noticing how your body signals to you that this is right. What do you feel in your legs? Moving up to your hips and your pelvic bowl, what are you noticing there as you hold in mind the temperature, the sounds, the smells, the sights of that time that just felt so right? Moving up to your solar plexus and your chest, what are you noticing there as you hold in mind that wonderful time that felt so right? Noticing down your shoulders and your arms, what sensations do you feel there? Let them be big. Breathe them in. Up your neck, the base of your skull, your face and your head. What are you noticing? What sensations are you noticing there? Breathe it in and let that big, beautiful feeling be there. Notice it all. All right. So go ahead and write down the physical sensations you noticed. A lot of people will say things, and it's anything for you, whatever it is, but it may be like, I just felt like I was standing taller, my shoulders were up, or like this light was like beaming from my chest, or I was floating and my hands were warm and I could, my face was smiling, my toes were tingling. Whatever it is for you, write down what you felt as you scanned your body when you remembered that time that was just so right for you in your life. Write them all down, every single one that you felt, and then give that a descriptive phrase too. Mine, I called it bees and sunshine because it just reminded me of, that was like what I was around, but the feelings were different, but that's how I remember it. So get yourself a little descriptive phrase, and that feeling you feel, all those sensations, that phrase that can remind you of it, that's your +10 on your little happy meter. Until something better happens, and it will, which I always love. Right, but this is your body saying, hell yes, all systems point to go. Like, yes, move this way, this is congruent, this is aligned. This is your body saying, keep going this way, this is good. And you know you can trust this. Those sensations you just wrote down, you know you can trust them because those are the exact sensations that your body was communicating to you when you were in this other situation that felt so damn right to you. You can trust the information that your body is sharing with you. Just like those gamblers could have trusted what was going on in their body after just 10 cards. 0 would be neutral. So let me see here. What I want to offer is to treat this as a new tool, just like you would if you're learning the guitar. So you're not going to be like, okay, I have this tool and I should just be fluent at it now. It seems so easy, right? It does. It like seems so easy. But when you have 38 years or how many years that you've been alive of practice of being like, I feel something, but they're saying this and that's probably right. Or I feel something, but this person is teaching me that strategy and that's probably right. And they're clearly making money. So I should just do that instead. When you have so much practice ignoring the wisdom of your body, it can feel difficult. So give yourself some grace. Let it be something that you're learning to use when you practice, right? And you can also use it for smaller decisions. It may feel silly, but like going out to eat and you're asking the waiter, what should I order? Like they know your taste, right? Or you're asking your friends, just be like, okay, do I want this sandwich or the salad? Let me just drop in and see like what feelings when I think about the sandwich come up and what feelings. And maybe one's a 2 and maybe one's a 6, go with the 6. Try it in smaller ways like that. And then you'll feel more confident using it when you are doing it for decisions like when you're moving towards your business, right? Like, let me go into my body and see what's my body is telling me. And I know I can trust that. Now let me go into my brain. I like this thing, let decisions be made in your body and plans be made in your brain or your mind. So go in first and see like what's feeling aligned to me, and then use your brain to be like, okay, how can I make this? If that's what I believe to be true for me and my business, now let me use my brain and see which strategies I can adopt, adapt, or abandon to now carry out this plan, to execute it. But I feel good about the base decision that I made, if that makes sense. You can kind of think of it like your body is your own little service dog. Like it's like a service dog. It's guiding you and cueing you if you stop and slow down to listen and pay attention, and you can trust that it's not going to miscue you. Even if you have trauma that's affecting your nervous system, even if you have the fear, you can still trust it. I just want to make one more point about this before we get into coaching, which is there's a difference between surface level fear and deeper level cues. So if there's like a repulsion, your body's like, no. And that would be your -10, right? The one you wrote down. But if you're like, there's fear, but you still feel this pull to move forward, that's your body saying yes. So think about it like this. If you're on a high dive, it's a hot summer day, there's a pool below you, and it's full of cool, clear water, but you're like on a high dive. And it's like, a little nervous, like a little scared, but there's this cool, clear water below. Like I'm scared, but I really want to get into that. I'm so hot and it looks so crystal clear. So you're going to do it. Versus if you're on a high dive on a hot summer day and you're like a little scared, but there's toxic sludge like bubbling below you. Nothing in you is going to be like, but I probably should still do that, right? So there is a difference between the discomfort that you will feel when you're trying to live a big life because your amygdala fires anytime you see something new, right? Or trying to do something new or live a big new life. Amygdala sees something new, it says it's scared. So you're going to feel fear. But if it's surface level fear and below that, you have that, but this is like a 9 or a 10 on my body compass and I feel fear, that's okay. That's part of it. It's going to be in the passenger seat the whole time, forever. That's just part of it. Versus my body feels like a -10. Of fear, it's like, okay, then no, stop and reassess. Okay. I already kind of mentioned that. So another thing that can be helpful, another way to use that bilateral stimulation, it's like a pattern interrupt. If you think about your brain is like a pathway. So neurons, they just travel in pathways and they're so used to going the way they're going. So if you think about stuff with your business, if you're like, okay, I've checked in, I did the body compass tool, I'm a positive 10 on this, but I'm still feeling so much like surface level fear, even though I know I want to do it, I feel so much fear. Like it's so hard to like move forward with this thing in my business. What you can do is you want to interrupt that pattern that's going with fear. And you can do that with things like bilateral stimulation. So in that moment, like, I know what my decision is because I know it's my +10. Let me bring this in and just bring my nervous system down. Let me go for a walk. So you can use those types of strategies to bring that fear down, to regulate yourself when you know, like, but it's a +10 underneath it. So you can bring that in that way. So just the more you use this, the more you really start to say, I have a lot of wisdom inside me and I can trust it and then take action based on trusting myself. The more you do that, the more it's like a circle. The more you do it, the more you're going to trust yourself. And when you're using that, when you're trusting your inner wisdom, the business that you are going to build, the life you're going to build is going to feel so congruent and aligned and true. You won't find yourself trying different things that feel horrible to you. You'll find yourself really going in and saying, okay, I know what I want. Now do I need to adapt, abandon? You're going to find yourself looking into yourself first versus always looking outward when you're trying to create this congruent aligned business. And this body compass tool is just a really powerful tool to help you do that. So I hope that you can use it and see how amazing it is and trust it, because it is really powerful in helping you create the aligned business and life that you want. So that's kind of all I was going to share with you today. Let me stop that, come back here. And then if anyone has any questions, you can ask them. And if not, let's just jump into coaching on anything, live, just open coaching on anything you want. So just, I don't know how you do it. You can raise your hand virtually like this or with a little hand down below, whatever you want to do.
I was wondering if this is more of like a question.
Yeah.
I found that I'm glad that you were like caveating, like this is like learning a new instrument. Because I feel like I'm like fairly body aware.
Mm-hmm.
Like teach yoga, have like really actually usually like when I stop moving, like whether it's exercise, yoga, some sort of like dance situation, it's like becomes a little bit of a hole. Like, and then every time I like come back to that, I'm like, oh God, I'm so much better. Right. But like doing this exercise, I found I was like, I could just see my brain being like, well, you kind of like didn't know, but then your brain, like it was some of those situations they were like no's for me. I also made decisions sometimes that were like, I don't know, they were like complex, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
The one that like came up. And so I was curious if like, do you have any examples that you could like walk like for yourself of like a time that you like maybe like your body was a no and then your brain interfered and then you like did something anyway, or the opposite where your body was like a yes but somehow I guess for me, like one thing I'm kind of thinking about is I feel like I do get a little muddled when it's like the fear and the like, and I know you just like talk through that, but I'm wondering if there's like even another tool or like what's my like immediate go-to when I'm like, is it fear or is it?
Yeah. So that's so it sounds like your brain was really coming in even during the going through the exercise and that of the body compass tool. And that's where I would suggest being like, hold on a second. I'm really up here versus down here. So and obviously I was in the middle of it. You weren't going to stop, but you could do this again on your own. Yeah. And before you even start, that's where I would really like maybe go for a walk or do some yoga, like get to a place where it's like, let me kind of regulate a little more and turn off the brain, because it sounds like it was on. So when you do that exercise and the brain's still on, you're going to be having those feelings of the question, the thoughts, which are leading to those feelings of like, but did this work? Or is this actually true? But this happened, but that happened, right? So you can, like, before you do the body compass tool, be like, okay, I'm just going to sit here and do some bilateral stimulation and breathe. I'm going to like do some yoga and get really calm and then do it. Like, do you have a time in your life? I mean, I would think that you do, that there, like, you just knew it was wrong. Like a relationship or a job.
I mean, oh yeah. Like I've definitely had, like,
even if your mind at the time was saying like, but maybe it's not, was there a part of you that was like, this doesn't seem right? And then later like, oh, that was totally wrong.
It's really funny because I'm like I've had like multiple jobs that were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And like in some situation, like it wasn't like it was like a total disaster. Like, oh my God, like there's like sexual abuse. Like it wasn't like something really traumatic happened. But also like I guess like, yeah, my brain's kind of going into this thing where it's like, well, in one kind of like narrative, all of the jobs that I had before this becoming a coach, I'm an executive coach and I help women with burnout. In some ways, every job was wrong because like, it was like not my calling. I mean, it's just like not what I was like. I knew that. I guess like, I'm trying to like, I guess for me, it's like, where exactly did I know? I mean, I guess like in some ways I knew like in that very first advertising job that like advertising as a industry is like not for me.
Right.
And that's played out. And then now I'm like grateful that I went on that journey. Like in some ways I'm grateful I kind of didn't listen because I got really burnt out and it's led me to like do what I'm doing now.
Right. So this isn't like so we don't have to use this as like oh my God, I like that shouldn't have happened. I wish that would have happened. Like, as of course, everything that we've all been through, all the shit, even that we were thinking of our -10, like it's why where we are today. And we probably all really enjoy where we are today, mostly. Right. So it's not a judgment of it. It's just a noticing of like, oh, this is how I was feeling when I was doing advertising. And it wasn't a +10 for me. And this is what my body communicated.
I was like judging.
Yeah.
I was judging.
Yeah.
The thing.
And then you're like, but I'm supposed to be grateful for that. And it's like, well, yes, but we're not judging. We're just
like, And I noticed that for a second, but I was trying to like then kind of focus on the exercise. But yeah, I was like, well, I knew that was wrong, but then I didn't do anything about it. So like, you know.
Right. And the point is, it's like, of course, that's the whole, so I was in a job for 10 years. I knew it was wrong and I didn't do anything about it. But the point of the exercise for me to go back and think about that is just to notice, okay, why did I know it was wrong? Like what in me was telling me it was wrong? Oh yeah, I felt like I was falling, like my body just literally felt like it was falling inward all the time, Now there were still days that were totally fine, but in general, it wasn't the right job for me. And what were those sensations? How did I know that? Like, how can I even say in general it wasn't right for me? I was feeling it. What did that feel like? And it's not like, yes, if I hadn't done that, I mean, it led me to many things. It led me to my husband, So, but it also taught me this is what it feels like to be in a situation that isn't right for me. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean it's horrible. It's just not my +10, and I want a +10 life.
Yes.
It could even be a -2. Yeah.
Yes.
It's just a way to gather information about how your body communicates like a service animal to you. Like, oh, this is how it communicates to me, hell yes. And this is how my service body communicates to me, hell no.
Yeah.
And however it does it is totally.
Yeah. There's like, yeah. And I feel like I've also practiced this over time, or I've worked with some people that have, you explain it in a very, like a really like logical way, which I really appreciate. But this is, thank you for talking me through that. Cause this is like sinking in a little bit more. I'm like, oh no, like I do know it, for me, it feels like I want to explore it more. Cause right at this point, it's hard for me to access like what was happening in my feet. Like those little things of like, it feels like I know what the feeling is. And I do use it. Like I check in, I'm like about a lot of things. But it's like, yeah, it's like it feels like a more general, like when it's no, it's just like heavy. It's like an energy closing. And when it's yes, it's like an energy opening. It's lighter, brighter.
And where do you notice that? Like, where is the energy opening and closing? Is there a spot if you had to feel that?
Like I wrote down gut in my, like or like, yeah, that's the part that I'm like, where is it? Where exactly like does that happen?
Yeah. Not necessarily, this is the thing. You might not noticing anything in your feet, but some people like, and I don't either. I don't know, but some people that I work with are like, oh my God, my feet are cold and tingly. Like, so the reason we go through is just so that whatever it is for you, like some people it's just the gut or just their head.
Right.
But that way you can just really scan everywhere. Like, okay, I've gone everywhere. This is what I noticed. And for you, it sounds like you're super clear on what it feels like. It's this feeling.
Yeah,
it's exactly. I know what it is.
I know it's hard. Yeah, the body, because like I also tend to like if I also feel like anxiety in my gut.
Mm-hmm.
Like I get the like stomach flip.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that like is, you know, you when you're talking about anytime you're doing something new, there's also going to be like fear right there, of course. And so that I don't know for sure if like the my like yes or no is actually in my gut. I think I feel a lot of things in my gut that are more related to anxiety actually. But I do know the feeling.
Okay.
I wish I want to be able to describe it like better with like
It's totally fine if you can't, because you know the feeling, and that's all. You don't have to be able to describe it. All you have to be able to do is pay attention and be aware when you're feeling what, and then trust it and act accordingly.
yeah.
You don't have, no one has to know what it, like, right? Like if you know the feeling, you don't need to put it into words.
I want to try to like see if for me it's like an intuition. It's more of like an intuition feeling or type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like yeah, I'm trying to think. Like the most recent one was like I just knew I was gonna have a daughter before I knew, and everyone else was saying you're probably gonna have a boy, and all the data was like probably a boy based on like genetic shit, and I was like, it's definitely like I was like, you know, I don't like no, but I'm like,
Right.
I think she's a
Girl.
girl. And she was, and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
That was like a cool moment, and I'm trying to remember exactly. It was just like a knowing. I don't know. It was very intuitive.
Yeah.
So anyway, we don't have to like keep. Thank you for like walking me through a little
Totally.
bit of detail.
Yeah, I think really the most important like takeaways is that our body has intelligence. We do have an inner compass, and we can utilize it. We're used to ignoring it, and that's not our fault. But we can start to practice to go in and be like, what is my compass leading me toward? Like I can go in and I can trust it. And that's literally research based, like that I can trust it. And then also with that, once I do that, then I can use my cognitive brain to help execute that plan. Like this isn't like a shitting on the brain. It's amazing. But let's start with the body to make the decision, and then let's use the brain to carry out the plan. That will lead to a congruent, aligned life.
That's really helpful too.
Really
that distinction of like decision making with your body.
Yeah. Unless, like I said, it's like financial, like if it's a new world thing, like financial investment, don't use your body. We weren't, our body wasn't wired that way, evolutionary, right? Like we weren't having to look at the stocks and the bonds and all these different things with money. Like that's what, like that is a specific example, something like that. You wouldn't want to use intuition for that. That's what research says. So if it's a new, like, what's the word? New age is what, that's not the right word, but like, you know, modern, complex thing, like your financial situation, use the data that you get, right? Not just your gut feeling on that. And don't use someone's static picture to make a judgment of them. Don't trust your gut on that either.
What do you like? That's really interesting because there's like this whole school of thought about like overcoming the like money objection for people.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like, I feel like a lot of times people are guided for the maybe I'm misinterpreting it, I guess. Like, yeah, interesting.
Tell me more.
I feel like the way that that's taught, like in the Stacey Bayman school of thought, is very much like, you know, get into like the like fuck yes, but I guess it's like the like hell yes is I want to do it, and then you have to get your brain on board with the financial part.
So you mean, so I guess I would see that as different, like choosing, like I'm going to decide to invest $25,000 into this mastermind versus I have this money and I need to choose like where I want to put it. that feels like a different decision to me. Like,
Mm.
versus I know where I'm putting it. Do I want to make this investment in this coaching? Or I have this money, for some reason, the XYZ bond just sounds better than the ABC bond. So I'm going to do that. That's not a good idea.
Yeah.
I guess with investing in coaching, that feels like a different decision to me, because you know what you're investing in. And
Right.
you're deciding, is this right for me? Is this program right for me? Is this coach right for me? Not like good or bad, but just, is this right for me?
Yeah. Yeah. It's different.
And I've had to use, I've used it, and it's saved. Well, I don't want to say saved me, but like when the brain is coming in and telling you like, well, this is what everyone's doing, and this is, look at what they're doing, and maybe I should just do it, even though I have used this tool to make decisions about where I want to invest in coaching. And I'm glad that I had the tool to use, so that I wasn't in my brain of, but this is what everyone's doing that makes money, etc. Because things weren't just right for me. Right. So I'm glad I had another tool besides just thinking up here and the 5% that I have a conscious awareness of. I'm going to put in the chat a book that talks about some of these studies. If you want more like into understanding, it's really good. So before you know the unconscious reasons we do what we do, it's fascinating. And so I coach the conscious and unconscious mind. So I create congruence between the two, which is just amazing, because your unconscious mind is responsible for 95% of your thoughts, actions, behaviors, everything. So if you can get into that, if you can get into that thing that's processing 11 million bits of information per second, and then create congruence with the conscious mind, it's magic. It's magic. So that's a really good book if you're just interested in more of like the hard scientific research behind it. He's a cognitive neuroscience, I think, scientist.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Anything else with that, or any coaching you'd like? Any sticky spots coming up in your business or anything? Anybody?
I don't know that there's anything like sticky, but I think something that could be interesting maybe to talk through a little bit, because I'm thinking ahead to June. So for the month of May, I contract with a couple different organizations, and I scaled back with the life coach school, and I have the intention to leave. I kind of give myself like three-month window to create some shifts inside my own business to do that. I don't know if I want to go back, or I know like I could go back in a limited capacity, like 5 or 10 hours a week or something like that. I don't know though. I don't know.
And you're trying to make this decision for like June, for what you want to do in June?
Yeah, it's like my other business mentor had kind of asked me about that too. Like what would make it such that you wouldn't go back in June? And I'm being in the possibility of creating 2 more clients this month, in which case it really probably don't need to. I'm just feeling more and more tension like in my body when I listen to it's like not the place for me right now. And it's interesting too, because I kind of pitched a proposal for a workshop for them months ago, and their response was super lukewarm. And I pitched like multiple things to them that because I've coached probably thousands of people who've come through, and there's just like glaring blind spots in my opinion, and I offered to patch those holes. And yeah, just the reception has been not great. And then how the universe moves, I decided to do the workshop for a whole bunch of other people outside of LCS. Amazing response. And that same week they came back and they're like, oh yeah, okay, so yeah, we'd like you to do the workshop. But even reading it back, first of all, I came back to them and I made a bold ask to them. I'm like, my initial proposal that I have for you, what are you proposing you're going to compensate? And then they came back super low number. And I said, the intellectual property I was planning on sharing is worth more. And if you're open to talking about compensation, then I'm interested in doing it. Otherwise, I would need to revise my initial proposal. Yeah, no, we're not interested in talking about money, which to me is crazy and kind of boils my blood a little bit.
Huh?
And yeah, I think like just that whole little thing was kind of another little ding that doesn't really make me want to go back. They not only did they take months to come back to me with my proposal, but on top of that, they were essentially like, hey, we've greenlighted you to do, and so here's the description of the workshop, and it matched nothing of my proposal. It was like a double middle fingers in the air kind of moment of like, you guys really don't give a shit.
Yeah. Okay. So I heard you said you're feeling more and more tension as you're thinking about it, and it's just not feeling like it's just not the place for you right now. So as you hear me say those words back to you, and I'm guessing you're probably feeling some of that like in your body right now. Why would you go back in June?
It's like, I know from like CEO me that like that income has been taking care of employee me and all of that, but also there have been a lot of shifts that have taken place this month. I think there was a time when I needed to, as the CEO of myself and my business, to create that contract so that my employee self could be taken care of. And now I have been, and now I'm ready for something different. But at the same time, I just don't want to create vulnerability for that, the employee me, where I go into worse pay conditions or something like that. And I don't know, there's just like that kind of protection mechanism of like, well, maybe it's good to just keep, even if it were 5 hours a week with them right now, until I'm really in a position to have some financial security in leaving.
And what do you need? Like, is it just two more clients to feel like you're in a financial position to not think about going back in June?
Like, yes and no. Like, yes, that would definitely kind of move me a lot more in that direction. And also, though, I want to be creating 2 a month. Well, really, like, the reality is 1 client a month is more pay than my entire contract. Like, the math is not mathing with staying there anymore at all. But there is that little piece of me that's like, I also don't want to be a fool about this. That contract is not my only contract though. So I can look at that and be like, worst case scenario, it isn't that terrible, but
yeah, if you were gonna like, right now it sounds like, and I don't know everything, but it sounds like your brain, like it's like, this is my option. It's like with them or not, and that's my security. But if you're going to stop and be like, okay, that's not my only contract, could I increase with these other people or this other person? Or like, if you were going to be like, if that was taken off the table as an option, what else would be an option to create that extra 5 hours or whatever to take care of employee myself? If that wasn't even an option, if they said you can't work for us anymore, what would you come up with as like, oh, this is how I'm going to take care of myself?
I mean, I could look for another contractor position. It's not a possibility to increase my hours with the existing ones. Maybe one of them, but not really.
You asked? Like, are you 100% sure about that?
Yeah, they overhired in one of the contracts, and then the other one is that one I know I could increase some, but not a ton. It's like, it wouldn't be, and I could find, like, I have enough experience coaching for coaches who have contractors that I don't think it would be that much of a headache. If it really kind of came down to that. But yeah, I'd given myself originally a 3-month window to make the transition. And yeah, I don't know if I really need 3 months truly to make that transition. But there is that kind of, fear, I guess.
Yeah. And then there is the reality of you want to bring enough money, so you're not then going out and graspy energy to try and get people. And then there's also the piece of what would open up in your time and your energy, like energy and energy. Just like with the masterclass, you're like, you know what, I'm doing this, and you had a great reception, and they're like, oh wait, we want it. What would open up if you cleared up that space in your calendar and your mind and your body?
Well, I already see, because I've done it for May, and it's been like quantum. The only reason why I wasn't creating in my business is just I literally didn't have the space. Like I have like the inverse pyramid of a lot of people's dreams, because I have a calendar packed with coaching clients, but it was so packed that, I tapped at the end of my day, and I just didn't have the breathing room to like create anything into my own business and to do the things that I know work. And now that I'm doing them, I am seeing it work, and I feel a lot more trust. That's why I'm like, do I want to go back? I'm like, mathematically, it doesn't really make sense. Time-wise, it doesn't make sense. I'm seeing the results of it. I have, processes, systems, and a mindset that I know works for me right now.
I think everyone hears the words you're saying. It's like, okay, we know what you want to do. We think we know what your body compass is telling you. What's that thing? So what's the one thought? What's the one thing that has a hold on you?
I think part of it is like I just don't want to go back to a place of scarcity. I want my employee self to be super well taken care of, so that as I'm doing these things, that it's not from a place of like I need, that it's from a place that's creative and from choice and freedom. And it's like, it's taken me time to like work through the mindset, the nervous system, and all things to be in the place where finally I really feel like I can pursue the next level of growth with a lot more detachment. And that feels an integrity with myself. So I'm like wanting to proceed with the same energy, and I'm not wanting to compromise that. And I'm concerned that it could,
that it could if you work for them or didn't work for them.
That if I just pull the Band-Aid off right now, instead of in a couple months, once I really kind of get in my rhythm with what I'm doing, that it could mean introducing, I know that it's energy that sells. I know that it's my level of like detachment right now that's like creating amazing internal and outer results for me, like at a quantum leap level. And so I know that having that contract, has helped me get to a place where I know employee can trust I'm taken care of. And I have looked at the numbers, and I have a different perception in that, like, I do have enough for employee to be taken care of if I do take that contract off the table. It's just that would mean playing it to the razor edge.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of
okay. And so, are you willing to do that? Is that worth it to you? Like, if you look at your reasons for staying would be taking care of employee yourself and not have to do it to the razor edge. Your reasons for going is to continue to quantum leap into integrity for yourself, free up that space. You said a lot of other things there.
Mm-hmm.
Which reasons do you love?
It's like both, because at the same time, like I've been someone who's been willing to take risks and defied conformity from the beginning. But also that has led me to like have some pretty low lows, you know, that I've climbed out of. And I'm just like, I know that like I could not fall that low anymore, because I'm a different person, and I have experience, I have a mindset, I have a support system, I have strategies that work. Like, I'm fine. But at the same time, it's like, ugh, you know.
I'm just going to say this. This is just tell me if you're like, that's totally wrong. But what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing when you're talking is that you aren't confused and you know what you want to do. But it's actually like, I just feel that there's this fear that it's not like, I'm just going to tell me if you're like, that's not true, Renee, but it just feels like it's not, you sound like you're taken care of. You know, you're not going to fall low. You can play on the razor's edge because you know what the hell's on the other side of it, and that's where you're going. So to me, it sounds like it's really fear that's blocking you from saying goodbye and going with what your body is screaming to you.
Mm-hmm.
What comes up for you when I say that?
I mean, I know that it's fear that's keeping me there. I think there's sometimes some wisdom in fear. I just don't know that that's the case here anymore, because the longer I stay, the more I just kind of want to leave guns blazing too. It's like,
right. Well, that's what I'm hearing. So I feel like definitely there's wisdom in fear and there's toxic sludge below in the pool, and there's not when it's a crystal clear. So what I'm hearing is you're like, there's a little bit holding you back, but most of you is being pulled forward. But for some reason, you're clinging to that part that's holding you back.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like, what's that reason?
Well,
Another word. Go ahead. I'll ask it later.
It's propping a part of me up too. Like, yes, it is in certain ways, but it's like, maybe it doesn't have to be all or nothing is kind of how I'm looking at it, of like, you know, it doesn't need to be like, okay, bye, and I leave now. Like, the intention too was to create and scale back. You know, I'm making business investments outside of this container and things like that. So I'm like trying to factor a lot of different things in for this. And I'm like, but at the same time, I feel like I'm making peanuts there. And I know there are other opportunities. Like, it's my lowest paying contract.
Yeah. It's just the energy with which you talk about it and the words with which you use to talk about it. That's like, it just feels like that is infectious. That can be infectious on everything, right? Yeah. There's nothing like, sure, you could stay there for 5 hours pay, but what is the cost to that?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you might not be on the razor, but what is the cost?
Yeah.
Like that part of you that's being propped up by the thought of like, well, I could just, because you totally could. There's no another thing that maybe I wonder if you're like, there's no wrong decision here. Mm-hmm. Like, you're not going to fuck everything up. There's no wrong decision here. But like, what that part of you that feels like it's kind of being propped up by being like, well, I could just do the 5 hours, which is fine if that's what you want to do. It just doesn't, none of you seems to be getting behind that in this. Like, it sounds like you're trying to talk yourself out of doing that and give reasons for why that shouldn't be what you do, but you could. But what is that part of you that's being propped up, like afraid to feel if it wasn't propped up anymore?
Like scarcity.
And so what's interesting is, to me, that scarcity is a thought, because you said you'd be taken care of to a razor edge, but still taken care of, right? Like you wouldn't be homeless. You'd have your needs met. Is that what you meant when you said you'd be taken care of?
Yeah.
Like it's a fine line, but like the scarcity, like what does that mean, right? Like you're taken care of, you have all this time and energy freed up. It's a way that your mind's thinking about that one thing. Is that what you want? Is that how you want to think about scarcity in terms of that, in terms of working with them or not?
Yeah, the thing is, it's not that like cut and dry. Like for me, I have like definitely some whiplash still from certain things of past programs I've invested in that were predatory, and I'm still paying the bill for, going through a fraud with a partner who emptied my business accounts. Like I have things that like I'm still recovering from, and that's why the fear is there, because it's like it slows my recovery process, and I'm in a place where I finally feel like I have enough security. I'm not in the place of need. I've done the inner work and the outer work to like create a better life for myself.
You sound like a freaking badass with everything that's happened and you've gone through and you've overcome, and that you're like all the contracts you have and the clients you're creating, the workshops you're creating. So like, what would just feel, if you got to pick, because even if you pick to stay with them, you can think of it as, this is me taking care of myself as an employee, and that's totally fine. Like I'm going to be fine with it. But like, if you were to say, okay, what's going to feel the most like, just what feels the most good to me, the most like caretaking of me to me, without judging of like, but I hate them, not hate them, but but I kind of want to flip them off and just leave. But if you're not worried about any, like you don't even care about any of them, you're just there to get the money, right? For now, if you're just like, what feels good to me, and I don't care what anyone thinks about it, I can not like them, I can still do it, but like what feels good to me to take care of me, how do I want to move forward for the next couple of months? What would feel just like best to you without worrying about anything else?
I mean, what would feel best is to like just leave, but
So wouldn't it feel good to stay and have 5 hours and bring in that income?
I mean, it would feel like neutral to me in the, like when I don't have to deal with the organization itself. I love the clients.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about how much I'm being paid. I'm just thinking about how I want to show up and how I want to serve when I'm in my sessions, But then the organization will do little things like send the proposal back that's like not reflective of anything I offered to give, or things like that are just like these little like slaps in the face that you're like, why am I putting up with this?
Yeah, and you have a choice too. So like if you wanted to stay, you have a choice of, I won't send them proposals, or if I do, I'm not going to allow their response to have any like, right, like I'm going to choose how it's impacting me. So because it feels like it's a chain, but like you're holding on to it. Like it's not wrapped around you, you're holding on to it. So it's just like, do you want to let go, or do you want to keep holding on to it because there's some abundance on the other end of it?
I mean, I know it's my choice to stay or to go. It's just that it's a blend of security and insecurity at the same time. And I get that I get to choose, but I am choosing to be angry and upset about some of those things. I don't think it's right or ethical.
That's totally fine. Yeah. And then you can choose, like, do I want to keep that? Because it's not just even one thing. It sounds like multiple things that are not right or ethical. Do I want to keep that in my life?
No, and I made the decision that I'm going, and I originally made the decision that I'm going in like a 3-month window, setting myself up for that. But I'm just wondering, after this experiment and seeing the results of that.
When you say experiment, did you mean the masterclass?
No, I like scaled back the whole contract. So I regained
Gotcha.
hours of my time by doing that I could reappropriate for doing things that have been awesome. And so now I like continuing that into June, and like for sure, the answer is I'm scaling back. Do I scale
Yeah.
back completely now? I mean, I think maybe there's a middle path of that, of saying I can take it week by week and add some hours back in. And if I want to, I can make my schedule weekly and just stop, if I don't want to.
Yeah. I guess I don't see a problem here because it sounds like you have total control over, I mean, even to the week with a contract, that seems pretty flexible. So it sounds like you have so much control over everything is up to you in this case.
Yeah. I mean, technically they could reach out and be like, what's happening? Why aren't you putting hours? But I guess worst case scenario with that is they reach out and then they'll probably give me an opportunity to start adding more back in, or they'll worst case is they let me go, but that's kind of not the end of the world. It's not returns.
It's what you're going for in June, right?
In like end of July is like
July.
out of there.
So like 9 weeks, 10 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, like I said, it's not that this is a problem, this is a decision.
Yeah.
And like, do I do it now? Because I have seen that I definitely do need more time for my own business. Coaching as much as I have been with, more than 10 people per day is a lot.
That's a lot.
I need to scale back somewhere. So that's going to be the contract I scale, because I want to let it go.
Right.
But yeah, just need to kind of assess going into June whether it makes sense, because my goal for this month was 3. I'm at 1. But I have 3 consults on the books. So we'll see.
I like like I said, it just sounds like you have so much, you're in control here. I mean, I know we're always in control, but with all of these even contracts, you are in the driver's seat. And the worst that could happen is in a couple of weeks, they're like, wait, what's happening? And you can either pick it back up if you're feeling like you need to, or be like, actually, I can't do more. So you can keep me at this or not. It's up to you, but this is what I can do. So I believe in you at the end of July.
Yeah.
It just sounds like I don't see a like a downside for you in any of this.
Yeah. No, it's not amazing. Just it does feel like I'm like kind of gambling with that contract, but is it a big L if I lose it? No. Like you said, if I really needed to replace, well, not needed, but really wanted to replace that contract, could I do it? Do I have the contacts to do it now? Yes. So
like write those 2 things down. Is it a big L if I lose it? No. If I wanted to replace it, do I have the contacts to replace it? Yes. It's like write those down in your mirror and be like, all is well. I will do my hours as I want them. I'm not being with this place forever. I get allowed to be pissed at them. I'm going to keep working with their clients like their clients, and I like making the money to take care of employee me. And it's not a big deal if I lose it, and I have the network to get more contracts if I want it. These are my truths. I'm in charge. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Renee.
Yeah. You're welcome. Good luck with all that. It's exciting that you're moving towards all those clients, or your clients that you're working with during the day. You're pregnant. Very exciting. Awesome. Andrea, do you have anything that you'd like coaching on? I don't know if you're there. I'm not sure where she is, but are you there, Andrea? Maybe you're out. Well, if there's no other questions, I can ask. Megan came to masterclass I did of this. There's more, Maria, specifically with some of your questions. If you were interested, and I could have her share the link with you, because it goes into more in depth and it gives some additional different ways to play with this and go into it. So you might find that beneficial for your thinking brain if you're interested. So I'll ask Megan. I'll see if she wants to share that with you guys. I'm happy to send that stuff to you. She can share the links with you guys. But that's all for me. So if there's nothing else, and I'm guessing Andrea, I don't know. If you have a question for me, you can find me at Renee Weaver _ on Instagram, Andrea, if you're watching this later, for any of you. It was so nice to come in and talk with you guys today. If anything comes up for you with this unconscious mind stuff and you have questions about it, I love to talk about it. So feel free to reach out. And yeah, it was great to be with you today. Take care. Bye.